It's almost hard to believe that it's been more than 6 years since the last Super Smash Bros. Game. Okay, so maybe it's hard to believe because the last Super Smash Bros. Game just came out a couple months ago, being Super Smash Bros. 3DS. And I liked it just fine. But for me, the true Super Smash Bros. Experience has always been about getting together with friends and playing on a giant TV using a proper controller. Which is to say, Super Smash Bros. Wii U is exactly what the doctor ordered. So let's cut to the chase. This game is fun. Like, really fun. And perhaps nothing exemplifies this better than the addition of 8-player Smash, which doubles the amount of maximum participants from past games. Now I know what some of you are thinking, 4-player Smash is often crazy enough, which means 8-player Smash must be pure chaos. And sometimes it is, especially with a full 8 participants on a small stage and items turned on. But it's not always as chaotic as you might think. 8-player Smash, more often than not, was not only surprisingly manageable, but also, to put it in scientific terms, a metric-ass ton of fun too. And it helps that some of the stages are seemingly created especially for that amount of players, with gigantic arenas like Palutena's Temple and Kirby's Great Cave Offensive making for some truly unique feeling experiences. Hell, even the returning 75-meter stage from Super Smash Bros. Brawl is actually worthwhile now thanks to a few tweaks and the addition of more players. Although you might want to make sure you're playing on a larger TV when on some of the bigger stages, since the characters can get pretty small when the camera fully zooms out. But thankfully, I had almost no problems keeping track of my character on my 42-inch set. Now one drawback to 8-player Smash is that only about a third of the stages are available if you're playing with 7 to 8 people, and just a handful more if you're playing with 5 or 6. It's just a little disappointing that 2/3 of the stages become inaccessible for adding a single person more. That issue aside, the overall stage selection here might just be the best overall of any Smash Bros. Game. Now part of this is due to the fact that some of my favorite stages in past games return, such as On It, Delfino Plaza, and Halberd. But the new stages too really feel like they go the extra mile by perhaps being the most dynamic and exciting they've ever been. Take the new Mario Circuit for example, which has you battling out on various portions of the anti-gravity racetrack from Mario Kart 8, during an active race no less. Which means you'll find yourself in all kinds of unusual positions, such as having the racetrack directly overhead, or even directly behind the playing field, which means you'll have to dodge incoming racers at all kinds of altitudes. Then there's Gamer from Game & Wario, and just like in that game, you'll have to keep an eye out for a patrolling mom in the background, because if you aren't able to retreat to the shadows in time, she'll send you flying if she catches you. And in the Wrecking Crew stage, you'll actually be able to destroy a building floor by floor, but watch out for the falling barrels that can trap you. I really could just go on and on about how fun and unique most of the stages are, such as how the traveling Woohoo Island stage is gorgeous and each area you land in feels completely unique. Oh man, there I go talking about the stages again. I told you I could go on for a while. But with that said, not every stage is a home run. For example, as with the 3DS version, Dr. Wily's castle is basically ruined by the ever-present Yellow Devil, who interferes way too much with the battle. And to a lesser extent, the same goes for Pyrosphere and its Ridley boss too. It's honestly kind of baffling that, after all these years, there still isn't an option to disable stage hazards such as these. And this is coming from someone who generally likes most stage hazards. But the option would be nice, particularly in the case of these two boss characters. But a few issues aside, the stage selection truly is great overall. Such as how in Mushroom Kingdom U, oh god, there I go again. Anyways, the amount of stages here is also the largest it's ever been too. But it does lean just a little too heavily on returning stages in order to accomplish that feat, as Smash Bros. Wii U actually features fewer brand new stages than Brawl did, which is a bit disappointing. Especially when nearly everything else in the game has been cranked to the max, such as a plethora of modes beyond just Smash matches. I mean, on top of pretty much everything from Super Smash Bros. 3DS returning, such as Classic Mode, All-Star Mode, and Stadium events, there are some cool new modes too, such as Special Orders, which comes in 2 flavors, Master Orders and Crazy Orders. In Master Orders, you pay an entrance fee to partake in 1 to 3 randomly selected challenges for a chance to win a prize. Whereas Crazy Order steps it up a few notches by requiring a massive entrance fee in order to battle in a series of challenges, with the potential reward increasing after each one. But in order to keep that reward, you have to take down Crazy Hand himself, who you can choose to battle at any point between challenges. So this introduces a risk versus reward mechanic in trying to complete more challenges in order to increase your total reward, before taking down Crazy Hand to maximize your investment. But here's the catch, you only have 10 minutes total, which means you'll want to move fast in each challenge. Oh, and your damage doesn't reset between rounds either, making each subsequent challenge a greater and greater risk. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. Now, I found both of the special order modes to be interesting and an engaging diversion, although I would be lying if I said I didn't find Crazy Orders to be incredibly frustrating at times. But my favorite mode, besides Smash Battles of course, has to be the return of Events mode, which has you playing through a series of unique challenges, and each one even comes with some flavorful story context, like preventing an incoming army of Mr. Game & Watches from touching the stage. And there's even a second set of stages available exclusively for 2-player co-op. I found this mode to be a lot of fun, and I couldn't help wanting even more challenges after beating the 50+ solo ones. Now something else that returns from Brawl is a stage builder, and strangely, it's both better and worse than before. The good news is that you can create pretty much any kind of platform layout that you can imagine, thanks to the ability to straight up draw whatever you want on the gamepad. The bad news is that's about it, because the ability to add interactive stage elements is extremely limited, with moving platforms, cannons, and springs being about the extent of it. The selection here is even more limited than it was in Brawl Stage Creator, which also had ice blocks, dropping platforms, and spikes that you could add. Despite this, the editor is still pretty powerful, as you can see here in my recreation of Hyrule Castle from Smash Bros. 64. But as you can also see, it barely looks the part, as the game only has 5 themes to choose from, which makes all the custom stages look pretty much the same. And the process of creating a stage isn't exactly the most user-friendly either. Like, why can't I move platforms I've already created elsewhere, instead of having to delete them and redraw them somewhere else? In addition, there's also a grid you can overlay on the canvas to more accurately create your stage. But there is a slight problem with it. The lines aren't actually thick enough for them to be rendered on the gamepad's low-resolution screen accurately, making them harder to use than they should be. With all that being said, it's still a neat feature that allows for a lot of potential. It's just that it could be a lot better. But perhaps the game's biggest new mode is something called Smash Tour, which is basically the Wii U's version of Smash Run. Only this time, you power up your fighter, or should I say fighters, by collecting power-ups on a board game. And you're not just collecting power-ups, but fighters too, which represent the characters and amount of lives you'll have in the final battle at the end of the game. But that's not the only battle, as you'll also engage in a variety of special matches throughout the game whenever you encounter someone else on the board, which allows you to steal their fighters if you win. It's a neat idea, particularly the final battle, which really should be its own mode, as I love the idea of being able to play as different characters within the same match. But here's my problem with it. The whole thing is nearly incomprehensible. The game's director even said himself that it's difficult to convey in words. And he's not kidding. It's unintuitive, unnecessarily complicated, and visually confusing. There is just a ridiculous amount of stuff happening at once, one right after another. I mean, in a single round, you'll have random pre-turn item drops, split-screen item usage, simultaneous dice rolling and real-time player movement, which is accompanied by whatever items you and your opponents decided to use that turn. And as I mentioned before, if anyone encounters anyone else on the board, that means you'll have a Smash battle to deal with too, where even more item effects will take place. Essentially, I think I finally understand how my dad feels when he watches me play a normal round of Smash Bros. In that I had no idea what was happening. Now granted, after a few rounds, Smash Tour did finally start to make some sense to me, but it never fully ended up clicking with me. The entire thing just felt too chaotic and random, as if nothing I did really mattered. And if you add to that the fact that it's nearly impossible to explain to your friends in a succinct manner while making sense, and you end up with a mode that I found to be more trouble to play than it's worth. I mean, why would we bother with Smash Tour when we could just play Smash Bros. Instead, where we're guaranteed a good time? And it's actually for that exact reason that my indifference to Smash Tour doesn't really matter. While I would have obviously liked to have enjoyed it more, it's an optional mode that doesn't detract from the rest of the game at all. And thankfully, as I said before, the core gameplay in Super Smash Bros. Wii U is fantastic. The roster of characters is huge and fun to explore, the controls feel great, and I can't imagine playing a future Smash Bros. Game in which 8-player Smash isn't an option. Oh, and then there's the Amiibo Support too, which allows you to power up a custom fighter to the point that it becomes a real menace on the battlefield. And I haven't even talked about the game's gorgeous visuals, which run at 1080p and a rock-solid 60 frames per second. I seriously only experienced a handful of instances of slowdown in over 70 hours with the game, and it was almost always under some pretty extraordinary circumstances too. Oh, and then there's the game's excellent soundtrack too, which is hundreds of songs deep, including a ton of fantastic remixes of both new and classic Nintendo songs. So clearly, there's a lot to do in Smash Bros. Wii U. And while not every mode may be a home run, they also didn't need to be. I expect one thing and one thing only from Smash Bros., and that's to have a smashing good time with friends, and Smash Bros. Wii U delivers that in spades. So as you can probably guess, I love Super Smash Bros. Wii U. It's simply a blast to play with friends, as long as you're not playing Smash Tour. Now I should mention that online multiplayer was not functional at the time of this review, and I realize for many of you that will likely be a huge component of the game, so rest assured we'll be covering it in the future. But for me personally, since I've always found Smash Bros. To be best locally with friends in the same room, the online functionality, and whether it even works well, has no bearing on me loving this game. But with that said, we will be covering its real-world performance as soon as we're able to. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain.com for more reviews and other things Smash Bros. Wii U too.